How can you not be bogged down by guilt on choosing to live a life different from your loved ones?
Yes. What a fantastic question. Thank you, Eliza. Guilt is a choice. Guilt is a choice. I was racked with guilt. I remember one time literally being unable to do my work, actually sitting in my office. Eve was probably a year old, so I had a 1-year-old and then all the others. Probably at that point, that would mean that I had a 4, 3, and 2-year-old as well. And just sitting in my office, paralyzed by thinking, what am I doing here when I've got a 1-year-old at home? And my sisters were both coming at me saying, what are you doing at work when you've got a 1-year-old at home? I had these 4 children. I'd had them on purpose. Then why was I at work 40 hours a week? And I remember I was so paralyzed that I picked up the phone and I called a classmate of mine from HBS, who'd also been a Baker Scholar. And I noticed, and she'd gone to Bain, and I had noticed that she had 3 children and never seemed to be exhibiting what guilt looked like. And her name was Wendy Miller. And I called her and I said, how do you do it? Give me some tips. And she said, oh, Susie, haven't you realized guilt is a choice? Your kids are going to be fine. It's not how many hours you work. It's what kind of parent you are and your authenticity and your love for them. And just choose not to feel guilty. And what she was saying, I was like, what? It's a choice. And she was so right. And I've lived by that since then, because if you are clear on your values, and your values are clearly not your family's values, okay, and you've chosen to live with them, then what you need is a language to talk to your family about your values that's not judgmental, that's not accusatory, that's not scolding, which is to say, I love you. Here are my values. Let me talk to you about them. I value scope, for instance. This is one of my favorite things about the values bridges. It gives people actually non-personalized language to talk about their values. Instead of saying like, I believe blah, 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 you can say my value is scope. That means that I am seeking a life with a lot of stimulation, excitement. I'm willing to take the downsides of that because I value the idea of a big, exciting, stimulating life more than I value some other things. And so this is the beauty of identifying our values and knowing them and being able to talk about them, is to say to the people in your ecosystem who don't share your values, can we all agree that everybody should not have the exact same values? I bet we can all agree on that. And even though people might secretly be thinking, I want everybody to have my values, they know intellectually that that's just absurd. What a bore the world would be if everybody had the exact same values, and we learn from people who have different values and so forth. And so then once you know your values, you can talk to people about them. And it was, what a breakthrough it was for me. One of the most important moments of my life when I was able to say to my kids, I want you to know something. I don't just go to work. I value work. I love work. Work gives me meaning. I believe in what I'm doing at work. And one day you'll grow up and you'll be gone, but I'll still be here. And I want to continue working. And I don't want to take an exit ramp right now because the on-ramps are very hard for 45-year-old women, okay? And I want to keep working because my work, you don't want to know me when I'm not working, kids. So work with me on living out my values, just as I will spend the rest of my life work with you on living out your values. And this was a breakthrough moment for me. My kids were really young and they were sort of a little bit like, what? But they got the gist of it. And so what a liberating, incredible experience it is to identify your values. I was actually doing this with one of my clients yesterday, where I presented the 15 values of the Values Bridge, and she was able to really paint a values profile of herself, to see the portrait of her values, and in a way that was like, whoa, we could so see why she was not vibing with her company, because it was fulfilling none of her values, none. And so it's very, very important that you know your values and your company's values so you can find out where the disconnects are, if any. So that's how you don't feel bogged down in guilt. I get it. I mean, some things are unavoidable. There are going to be moments where there's real conflict, but you need to figure out your values and then be able to talk about them in a way that allows you to step away from the guilt. And good luck with that. That's the work of our life, but it is totally, totally possible.